In progress.
Okay. Said before, let me go ahead and share our screen here. Make sure I click that button. Share. Presentation mode. Okay, we are in, part 2 of Second Kings, and we're in 1 Kings chapter 22, duplicated in Second Chronicles chapter 20, keeping in mind that the Chronicles was written from the point of view of the southern kingdom, Judah, whereas the 1 Kings was written by many different people or edited, compiled by several different people with different biases. 1 Kings chapter 22, verse 41. Jehoshaphat, son of Asa, began to reign over Judah in the 4th year of King Ahab of Israel. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 25 years in Jerusalem. His mother name was Azubah, daughter of Shili. That's a nice name, Shili. He walked in all the ways of his father Asa. Asa was a good king. He did not turn aside from it, doing what was right in the sight of the Lord. Yet, that's like a but the high places were not taken away, and the people still sacrificed and offered incense on high places. This just it basically means that we're coming to the end of Jehoshaphat, and they're giving a summary of everything. We heard about the wars he went to with Ahaziah. He joined with Ahaziah. That was the prophet went against him, told him you're not supposed to do that, and he backs away, and then things start to go right now. So Jehoshaphat was considered a good king, although there was that one moment, and also he didn't take away the smaller hills that were around where people had built altars. So he didn't take those. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat and his power that he showed and how he waged war, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? Don't know, never read it. The remnant of the illicit priests who remained from the days of his father Asa, he purged from the land. Now that's interesting because that implies that Asa, with as good as Asa, Asa had all these religious reforms going on. Asa was a great king. He says he was a very good king. But we find out that he didn't dispose of the priests of foreign gods in the nation, hence the altars and things that were set up. So Jehoshaphat, on the other hand, at least got rid of the priests that were leading them in the wrong way. He didn't tear down the altars, but he got rid of the people that were leading the services. There was no king in Edom. Now, we switched gears here. There was no king in Edom. A deputy was king. Edom had been defeated by God back when Jehoshaphat and Ahaziah went to war with them. And so Edom is now a vassal. Things are going to change in Edom very quickly. So just giving you a heads up. Jehoshaphat also made peace with the king of Israel. Now, that's Ahab, is when he made. But Ahab died real quickly, and so Ahaziah then became king. But now Ahaziah's son is gone, and Jehoram is Ahaziah's brother. Ahab's other son is in charge. Jehoshaphat has a son named Jehoram. We're going to find out. Jehoshaphat also has a son named Jehoram. And they're going to rule at the same time. So you got two kings, one king of the north, one king of the south, with the same exact name. The way the writer of the Kings in this translation, he's going to change the name to Joram so we can differentiate the two. So Jehoram in the north, Joram in the south. Joram in the south, Jehoshaphat also made peace with the king of Israel. We're going to find out here in a little bit that peace was made through marriage. And that would be Ahab and Jezebel's daughter, Athaliah. So Jehoshaphat, as good as he was, he's going to marry his son off, marry Jehoram or Joram off to the daughter of Ahab. That's the peace that was made. And that's, you can take that word for everything it's worth when you think of Jezebel and Ahab. So Jehoshaphat made ships of the Tarshish type to go to Ophir for gold. just because they were hardy ships. Now, the Second Chronicles text adds a little bit. Then Eliezer, son of Dodabahu of Marisha, prophesied against Jehoshaphat, saying, "Because you have joined with Ahaziah, the Lord will destroy what you have made." So this is that connection with Ahaziah. There's a lot of information there, but this prophet prophesied against them and said, "You're not supposed to be making deals with the king of Israel. God told you not to, to keep away from them. They're just going to lead you into the evil and stuff." And then Ahaziah, son of Ahab, said to Jehoshaphat, "Let my servants go with your servants in the ships." But Jehoshaphat was not willing. So Jehoshaphat listened to him and is trying to stay away from Ahaziah, but Ahaziah is, "Hey, let my guys be, part of your sailing crew," because they want some of the profits from where they're going to. But they did not go, for the ships were wrecked at Ezion Geber. So right where they were being built, they were destroyed. It doesn't say how. Jehoshaphat slept with his ancestors and was buried with his ancestors in the city of his father David. His son Jehoram succeeded him. There's that first name there. The Chronicles in Second Chronicles chapter 21 adds that he had brothers, the sons of Jehoshaphat, Azariah, Jehiel, Zechariah, Azariah, Michael, and Shephatiah. All of these were the sons of King Jehoshaphat. So it says that because we're going to, what happens when you have a lot of sons that have possibility to take the throne. Right. Right. But Jehoshaphat is doing, at least we're getting some comparisons here to Rehoboam, who was Solomon's son, who had, there were a lot of children of Solomon, and they were separated in order to avoid that jealousy or to give them things to do, let them know their place, kind of thing. So on with the Second Chronicles 21, it continues on that their father gave them many gifts of silver, gold, and valuable possessions, together with 49 cities in Judah. But he gave the kingdom to Jehoram because he was the firstborn. So the southern kingdom has a firstborn son that is taking over finally. So many second king learned sons and things. And the other sons are being given positions that are lesser than such. So kind of like I said, to put them in their place to try to avoid conflict. We're going to find out that doesn't. Sorry, spoiler. Come on now. Okay, now we're jumping to 2 Kings chapter 8. To give you all a chance to look there real quick. Told you, I try to keep all this in some kind of chronological order so we don't have to go backtrack. 2 Kings chapter 8, starting in verse 16. And this is where the shift from Jehoram becomes Joram. That's how the compiler of the Kings differentiated between the two. In the 5th year, this is verse 16. In the 5th year of King Joram, son of Ahab of Israel, Jehoram, son of King Jehoshaphat of Judah, began to reign. So Joram in the north, Jehoram, sorry. He was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. He walked in the way of the kings of Israel as the house of Ahab had done. For the daughter of Ahab was his wife. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. So his wife is Athaliah, daughter of Ahab and Jezebel. And you can see that here we have two great kings, Asa and Jehoshaphat, who give way to Jehoram, who is evil. Things will not go good when both of the kingdoms, north and south, are both. Yet the Lord would not destroy Judah for the sake of his servant David. That's the Davidic covenant. Since he had promised to give a lamp to him and to his descendants forever. Lamp symbolizes life and testimony. In his days, Edom revolted. So here we are at that story there. Edom revolted against the rule of Judah. They're a vassal state. and set up a king of their own. Then Joram crossed over to Zaire, Joram being of the north, with all his chariots. He set out by night and attacked the Edomites and the chariot commanders who had surrounded him, but his army fled home. So Edom has been in revolt against the rule of Judah to this day. Libnah also revolted at the same time. We don't know much about it. And it says in the 2 Chronicles 21 that they revolted because he had forsaken the Lord, the God of his ancestors. Libnah did. So it seems to indicate that Libnah may have understood who the God of Israel, God. Moreover, he made high places in the hill country of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem into unfaithfulness and made Judah go astray. So all the reforms that his grandfather and father put into place, he has completely undone. Now, a letter came to him. This is in 2 Chronicles. A letter came to him from the prophet Elijah, saying, the last time we heard about Elijah was the prophets of Baal and that. So, a letter came to him from prophet Elijah saying, "Thus says the Lord, the God of your father David." So Elijah mainly preached to the north, but here he's sending a letter to the king of because you have, this is what the letter said, because you have not walked in the ways of your father Jehoshaphat or in the ways of King Asa of Judah, but have walked in the way of the kings of Israel, and have led Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem into unfaithfulness, as the house of Ahab led Israel. And because you have also killed your brothers, members of your father's house who were better than you. Ooh. See, the Lord will bring a great plague on your people, your children, your wives, and all your possessions. And you yourself will have a severe sickness with the disease of your bowels until your bowels come out, day after day, because of the disease.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm glad it didn't go into too much more detail.
Yeah. That was enough.
I work in healthcare and the hospital. Yeah, I've met people.
That's gonna be kind of a plague of flies.
Don't know what the plague was. We just know it was a plague. The Lord aroused against Jehoram the anger of the Philistines. Where'd they come from? David had subdued them, and all of a sudden, here they are again. And of the Arabs who are near the Cushites. So these are the Arabs that live in Egypt, or in Africa. So, okay.
Doesn't that tell us something about Elijah, that in order to deliver this good news, he writes a letter instead of having the cojones to be there?
Yeah.
Well, Elijah, he threw a lot of pity parties. He was kind of an isolationist, although he knew there were other prophets, and we will eventually see that he traveled with prophets. But he was kind of a loner. He was kind of like a John the Baptist, although again, John the Baptist also had disciples. So, yeah, he's kind of a loner. But the fact that he knows all this,
Makes you better yourself.
Years after David and Solomon is this taking place?
we are within 120 years. So 100 to 130, somewhere. Sorry, catching my breath. We're in 2 Chronicles chapter 21 now. We'll get back into the Kings. Oh, hang on. Yeah, that's where I was reading.
16.
Yeah, 17. Yeah. They came up against Judah, invaded it, and carried away all the possessions they found along to the king's house, along with his sons and his wives, so that no son was left to him except Jehoahaz, his youngest son. So the north invades the south, the Philistines and the Cushites, or the Arabs in Cush, attack. They kill everybody in Jehoram's family except for the youngest son, Jehoahaz.
No, it looks like Cush.
Yeah, Ethiopia.
Ethiopia.
That's the common name we call it. 2 Kings chapter 2. Just making sure everybody's there.
We went back from 8 back to 2.
Yes, now we're in Second Kings chapter 2. No, we're not in Chronicles. Now the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven by a whirlwind. So the writer knew about it. Elijah and Elisha were on their way from Gilgal. Gilgal is the name of like 8 different places. We have no clue which one they're talking about. Elijah said to Elijah, by the way, Gilgal just means place of the altar or whatever. They would set up a little stone place. Elijah said to Elisha, stay here. The Lord has sent me as far as Bethel. Now, Bethel, remember, is in the south of the northern kingdom. It's just across the border, just a few miles away from the border with Judah. But Elisha said, as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave you. So they went down to Bethel. The company of prophets who were in Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, do you know that today the Lord will take your master away from you? And he said, yes, I know. Shut up. Or in Vietnamese. You don't know what shut up means in Vietnamese? It's bicycle. So my wife, if y'all ever hear her come up to me and say, hey, Michael.
This is her way of telling you.
Yeah.
She's speaking in code.
Shut up. Yeah. In nuclear medicine, we had a code phrase, or a code word with code phrase, which was duct tape. Hey, have you seen the duct tape? That would mean, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? Leave the room. If it was red duct tape, that means shut up and just leave. I'll take over from here.
You're done.
Right. Right. Well, it usually had to do with difficult patients.
Yeah. Wasn't one.
Yeah, so they get to Bethel and a company of prophets comes out, they talk to Elisha and don't you know that God's gonna take away Elijah today? Yeah, I know. Don't keep your mind.
So good to know all the prophets got the same news, the same.
Right, it's funny that they all. Elijah said to him, yeah, we're still Second Kings chapter. Elijah said to him, Elisha, stay here, for the Lord has sent me to Jericho. So now he's headed into the south.
I got Jordan here.
Well, that would have been in the south. But he said, as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave you. So they came to Jericho. The company of prophets who were at Jericho drew near to Elisha and said to him, do you know that today the Lord will take your master away from you? And he answered, yes, I know. Shut up.
You got a lot of relatives.
Then Elijah said to him, stay here. The Lord has sent me to Jordan. That's where we get them. But he said, as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave you. So the two of them went on. 50 men of the company of prophets also went and stood at some distance from them as they both were standing by the Jordan. Then Elijah took his mantle, that would be his overcoat, and rolled it up and struck the water. The water was parted to the one side and to the other, and the two of them crossed on dry ground. Now that's happened twice before in the history of the Israelites. Moses doing the Red Sea, parting the Red Sea with it, just by raising his staff, and Joshua coming up to the waters of Jordan and then just, well, as they're crossing into Jericho and to defeat the battle of Jericho, the waters part. They just part for him.
I heard a sermon on this morning, and upon Elijah's departure, Elisha took the mantle and struck water and said, where is the God of Elijah?
You're in chapter 8. We're in chapter 2.
Excuse.
Okay. Actually, we get to that.
Okay,
Yeah, you're jumping ahead. Jumping ahead.
my job.
Yeah, you ruined the rest of my slides. Well, class is over. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, tell me what I may do for you before I am taken from you. Elisha said, please let me inherit a double share of your spirit. Now, this double share is more, it takes on a whole new meaning. When we think about how close Elijah and Elisha were, they're like that father and son. So when you think about double portion, the oldest son got a double portion of the inheritance too. And so it's okay for Elisha to be asking this. It would be proper because they're in a father-son relationship. But he's asking for a double share of the spirit. And Elijah's response, he responded, "You have asked a hard thing." How do I give you double my spirit? I can give you double everything I have, which is hardly anything, but I can't give you, so yet if you see me, he's kind of talking out loud, letting God hear this too. Yet if you see me as I am being taken from you, it will be granted. If not, it will not. So Elijah is placing this double spirit inheritance on God. It's God's responsibility to grant it. It's not mine.
As it should be.
As they continued walking and talking, a chariot of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them. And Elijah ascended in a whirlwind into heaven. Notice it wasn't the horses and the chariots that took him, it was a whirlwind that took him. And that's important for later on. I think next week we'll, are we doing? No, we're not doing it next week. Sorry, we've got Mother's Day. Elisha kept watching and crying out, "Father, Father!" There's that relationship. The chariots of Israel and its horsemen. But when he could no longer see him, he grasped his own clothes and tore them in two pieces. Something major has happened as he's ripping his clothes. And then suddenly he picked up the mantle of Elijah that had fallen from him and went back and stood on the bank of the Jordan. Meaning that he chose to pick up the mantle. He just didn't leave it there. He took the mantle of Elijah that had fallen from him and struck the water. He said, "Where is the Lord, the God of Elijah? Where is he?" He struck the water again, and the water was parted to the one side, to the other. And Elisha crossed it. Yeah, he's basically saying, "I know it's not the mantle, God, it's you." And he strikes it once, nothing happens. He had just seen Elijah do it. It happened on the first try. He strikes it, nothing happens. And it's like, and so when he cries out, "Where is the Lord God of Elijah? Where is he?" He's basically saying, "Okay, God, I know it's you. It's not this mantle." When the company of prophets who were at Jericho saw him at a distance, they declared, "The spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha." They knew already that he had that double portion. They came to meet him and bowed to the ground before him. They said to him, "See now, we have 50 strong men among your servants. Please let them go and seek your master. It may be that the Spirit of the Lord has caught him up and thrown him down on some mountain or into some valley." So they have probably seen the whirlwind, saw Elijah be taken up, and they're thinking that he has been thrown from this tornado somewhere, and they're wanting to go look for him. Elisha tells them, "No, do not send them." But when they urged him to the point of embarrassment, he said, "Send them." So they bug him and bug him and bug him. He says, "Okay, go look. You're not going to find me, but go ahead." So they sent 50 men who searched for 3 days, but did not find him. That 3 days is kind of significant. Anytime we hear the number 3, it means a number of divine completeness, or divine wholeness. So 3 days, yeah, they searched. God set it about their hearts in so many ways that, okay, yeah, he's not on this earth. When they came back to him, he had remained in Jericho. He said to them, "Did I not say to you, do not go?" Yeah, he's got to rub it in their face. Now, the people of the city said to Elisha, "The location of the city is good, as my Lord sees, but the water's bad and the land is unfruitful." Remember that plague that's going on? He said, "Bring me a new bowl and put salt in it." Don't try this at home, guys. So they brought it to him. Then he went to the spring of water and threw the salt into it. He said, "Thus says the Lord, I have made this water wholesome. From now on, neither death nor miscarriage shall come from it." So we're seeing what the plague, what kind of results the plague had. People were dying from drinking the water. They were miscarrying babies from it. That kind of thing. So the water has been wholesome to this day, according to the word that Elisha spoke. Now, I don't know about y'all, but throwing salt in water and then drinking it is not my cup of tea, excuse the pun. Um. Some scholars have said that maybe it was enough iodized,
Epsom salt.
but I'm going, it was a bowl. Then they questioned, well, we don't know how big the bowl was. It had to be big enough for him to carry, or small enough for him to carry, so I'm just thinking it's throwing it into a spring, you know. I don't have any answers except that God took this little bit of salt, Elisha throwing it into this pool, and everything went right. That's what I know. That's what the scripture tells me. I can't question it anymore from that. I mean, I can, but I've been told everything I apparently need to know.
My mom had a water softener system put in because Waco has hard water. And it took salt in the outside tank. She'd have to buy a special water softener system, salt. Put it in there and then it would keep the water
Right.
soft. And it would also clarify it.
The reason they say iodized salt is because of the iodide content in it. Iodine is used to treat water for impurities and things. I used it in the military. So, yeah, but like I said, I go with what's there. Apparently God didn't need me to know anything else. And so I trust it. I take it on what it says. Okay. Now on to verse 23. He went up from there in Bethel, and while he was going up on the way, some small boys, youth is what one translation says, came out of the city and jeered at him, saying, "Go away, bald head, go away, bald head."
I get that all the time.
When he turned around and saw him, we get this juxtaposition, this dichotomy of youth and bald. So you've got young and old, but Elisha was not considered to be very old to begin with himself. So he's bald. We don't know whether that was a natural thing or whether, we just don't know. But he's not in a very good mood, but it does say curse him in the name of the Lord. So this is a righteous person. So anyway, we get the rest of the story now. Paul Harvey's coming. Then two she-bears, mama bears, came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the boys. From there, he went on to Mount Carmel and then returned to Samaria. Now, I want to make mention that it does not indicate that these boys were killed. It said they were mauled. We automatically jump to the conclusion that they were killed. But usually when scripture dictates that something bad like this happens, it says kill. So I just want to make that point. They probably were, but I don't know about that. The fact that it mentions mama bears may seem to imply that there may have been cubs around, and anyway.
My version says Tor instead of Mall.
Okay, yeah.
They were hurting anyway.
Yes, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I hear about those stories. In fact, in the was it 2017? So I think it was maybe 2019. Anyway, that bear whisperer or whatever out there sleeping with the bears, and they've got audio. Don't go online. Let's do it. I've heard it is disturbing. The last bit is the camera, but all you hear is audio from the camera of him being mauled by a bear.
No, that's not.
Because he didn't show up 4 days later when he's something out finding out his camera.
Whisper.
Yeah. Now we jump to chapter 4 of 2 Kings. Now a wife of a member of the company of prophets cried to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared the Lord. But a creditor has come to take my 2 children as slaves." That's a pretty normal thing for the Jews, that if they couldn't pay their bills, they would become conscripted servants. Elisha said to her, "What shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house?" She answered, your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil. He said, go outside, borrow vessels from all your neighbors, empty vessels, and not just a few. Then go in, shut the door behind you and your children, and start pouring into all these vessels. When each is full, set it aside. A lot of questions. Elisha's asking her, what do you want me to do? You know, and then suddenly, ooh, go get all the vessels. Now I want you to remember Elisha has a double portion of the Spirit. If you remember, Elijah met the woman at Zarephath, and she only has enough meal to make one little meal and for her son and her, and then she's gonna die. And he says, no, trust me, you'll have plenty. She makes it, she is able to make it, plenty. But it doesn't, and it does, it doesn't really go on too much further from that. Here he says, just keep pouring. Keep pouring. We don't know how many vessels she got, but so she left him and shut the door behind her and her children. They kept bringing vessels to her, and she kept pouring. I think of Finding Dory. Just keep swimming. Or no, that's Finding Nemo. Sorry, just keep swimming. Yeah, run for it. When the vessels were full, she said to her son, bring another vessel. But he said to her, there are no more. So they have borrowed all the vessels they possibly can. Then the oil stopped flowing. She came and told the man of God. He said, okay, go and sell the oil, pay your debts, and you and your children live on the rest. Well, that's a nice story. And then it immediately goes into another one. One day, Elisha was passing through Shunem, where a wealthy woman lived, who urged him to have a meal. So whenever he passed that way, he would stop there for a meal. She said to her husband, now that's interesting here. I'm gonna stop there because it mentions that she's the wealthy one, but she's married. Look, I am sure that this man who regularly passes our way is a holy man of God. Let us make a small roof chamber with walls and put there for him a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp, so that he can stay there whenever he comes to us. This was that law of hospitality. Whenever Elisha would pass through, he would probably visit this place. She may have contributed to his ministry of some sort, or, but he comes by here often enough. Let's just make him a room upstairs and be done with it. That way he doesn't have to seek us out. He knows exactly where to come. So yeah, the law of hospitality was a big deal. One day when he came there, he went up to the chamber and lay down there. He said to his servant Gehazi, Gehazi is going to be an important person next time we meet. Keep that name in mind. Call the Shunammite woman. When he called her, she stood before him. He said to him, say to her, since you have taken all this trouble for us, what may be done for you? Would you have a word spoken on your behalf to the king or to the commander of the army? She answered, I live among my own people. He said, what may be done for her? Gehazi answered, well, she has no son and her husband's old. He said, call her. When he had called her, she stood at the door. He said, at this season, in due time, you shall embrace a son. She replied, no, my lord, O man of God, do not deceive your servant. Now, up until this point, we have no indication that she even wants a child. But with her response, we seem to get an implication that may have been. So we're getting a comparison to Abraham and Sarah. The woman conceived and bore a son at that season, means 9 months later, in due time, as Elisha had declared to her.
Does that indicate to us that if you don't need anything, you deserve a son?
Apparently I didn't deserve it. We got a daughter. If y'all know anything about my family history, I say this, I can say it proudly because the coronation was yesterday. I come from royalty. I'm technically part of the royal family, go back far enough. And
Which one?
The British royal family. I come from the line of Tunnishton, from Saxon. And I was a 16th generation firstborn boy. Me. 16 generations of a son being born first. And I had a girl. And not only that, my uncle, my dad's brother, had 5 girls. I have 2 brothers. My middle brother and his wife have not been able to be. They've given up. They're reaching 50 now.
And the light came on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there was like,
My youngest brother, James, his first 2 children were girls. Then he finally had a baby. So we finally have a boy. And according to royal tradition, it falls to the oldest remaining son to take care of that. So it's my responsibility to make sure that JJ grows up to propagate. And have a boy. It's my responsibility. Anyway, interesting. We've got all kinds of books that were written. Y'all have heard of the Hatfield and McCoys? You know, that feud. Well, there was a Townsend feud in Columbus, Texas. And you can read, just go to Google, look it up. There were more deaths in that feud than there ever was in the Hatfield and McCoys. There's a book out called The 7 Townsend Brothers of Texas, which fought in the Revolution of Texas. And 2 of the 7 brothers were in the military that captured Santa Ana. So it's very interesting. I take my history very seriously.
by your servant.
No, you know. Also back in the, so with that said, I could take the throne, but about 80,000 people would have to die. There was a movie back in the mid to late 80s called King Ralph with John Goodman, with a very similar scenario. He's a drunkard, and the royal family is taking a royal photo, and they all get electrocuted to death. And he was, he assumes the crown. He's the next in line. So anyway, it's that one. Where were we?
It's another
Yeah.
17.
So a few years later, okay, we're in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 18. So between verses 17 and 18, we're jumped a few years.
Okay.
When the child was older, he went out one day to his father among the reapers. He complained to his father, "Oh, my head, my head." The father said to his servant, "Come, carry him to his mother." He carried him and brought him to his mother. The child sat on her lap until noon, and he died. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, closed the door on him, and left. Then she called to her husband and said, "Send me one of the servants and one of the donkeys." And this again is proof that she's rich, because they have donkeys. Donkeys was a sign of goodwill. So that I may quickly go to the man of God and come back. He said, "Why go to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath." She said, "It will be all right." Then she saddled the donkey and said to her servant, "Urge the animal on. Do not hold back from me unless I tell you." So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. So here she is. She's heading out. It's not a festival or anything. Her husband's a little dim-witted, we're finding out. Okay. So he's like, it's not a festival or anything. Why are you headed out? Why are you leaving? Don't worry about it. Everything's gonna be okay. It's like,
Does he know his son's dead yet?
oh, he knows, but it just doesn't affect him as
Evidently.
preparing for resurrection here, not funeral. Excuse me. And the time is not a time of pilgrimage. So she's preparing for a resurrection, not a funeral.
Oh, okay.
When the man of God saw her coming, he said to Gehazi, his servant, "Look, there is a Shunammite woman running, wants to meet her and say to her, 'Are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is the child all right?' She answered, 'It is all right.'"
All right.
But
But it's not all right.
Jesus said, okay. When she came to the man of God on the mountain, she caught hold of his feet. Gehazi approached to push her away. The man of God said, "Let her alone, for she is in bitter distress. The Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me." Then she said, "Did I ask my Lord for a son? Did I not say, 'Do not mislead me'?" He said to Gehazi, "Gird up your loins, take my staff in your hand and go. If you meet anyone, give no greeting, and if anyone greets you, do not answer, and lay my staff on the face of the child." Then the mother of the child said, "As the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I will not." So Elisha is just going to send Gehazi to go take care of it. And she says, "Oh, I'm not dealing with anybody except you." Okay, then I'll. So he rose up and followed her. Gehazi went on ahead, laid the staff on the face of the child. Oh, okay. here's a dead kid, let's put a stick on his face. But there was no sound or sign. He came back to meet him and told him the child was not awakened. When Elisha came into the house, he saw the child lying dead on his bed. So he went in and closed the door on the two of them and prayed to the Lord. Then he got up on the bed and lay upon the child, putting his mouth upon his mouth, his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands. And while he lay bent over him, the flesh of the child became warm. Interesting.
Mhm.
He got down, walked once to and fro in the room, and got up again and bent over him. The child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. Elisha summoned Gehazi and said, call the Shunammite woman. So he called her. When she came to him, he said, take her.
He's alone. Cool.
I don't know about ancient Near East CPR methods. I have never seen someone come, I've never seen someone who had CPR done that was roused, suddenly sneeze. But possibly, I don't know. She came to the hour. I expect the choir to come in here and start loving us. So she came and fell at his feet, bowing to the ground. Then she took her son and left. When Elisha returned to Gilgal, there was famine in the land. As the company of prophets, now that famine may be due to the plague and stuff that was happening, maybe a part of the result of coming out of it. As the company of prophets was sitting before him, he said to his servant, put the large pot on and make some stew for the company of prophets. One of them went out into the fields to gather herbs. He found a wild vine and gathered from it a lapful of wild boars and came and cut them up into the pot of stew, not knowing what they were. They served some for the men to eat. While they were eating the stew, they cried out, oh man of God, there is death in the pot. They could not eat it. He said, then bring me some flour. He threw it into the pot and said, serve the people and let them eat. And there was nothing harmful in the pot. Some scholars have said that this is what we call wild cucumbers or colocynth, which can be fatal if not, if eaten in large enough things. But I would take from this story, don't go out and just start eating berries that you don't know what they are. But I think, if I'm correct, I think that's the last slide. Yeah. So next week, Elisha feeds 100 men. There's a healing of Naaman, who is a foreign military general. But Gehazi, there's that name. Gehazi shows up and he's greedy. The miracle of the axe head. Have y'all ever heard that story? Ooh, that's an interesting one. Aramean attack is thwarted. Ben-Hadad's, he's still around. Ben-Hadad of Syria, or Aram, whatever you want to call it. Siege of Samaria. The Arameans flee. The Shunammite woman's land restored, and then we get the death of Ben-Hadad. So you kind of know where all that goes. We're not going to be having Sunday school next week. The reason being is because it's Mother's Day. We're having a breakfast together during the Sunday school hour. So this will be in a couple of weeks that we'll get to these. So keep that in mind. I tell you to read ahead, but I don't know what to tell you to read.
The reason you're skipping around is to put it in chronological order.
Keep it in some kind of timely order.
And if we're reading the Bible, that's, I guess, leads to some of the confusion that we.
Very much so.
Yeah.
It really messes up the timeline because the way the Kings is written, it goes north, south, south, north, king wise. North, south, south, north, north, south, south, north, north. It's a jumping back and forth, but when they get to the nation, to the other nation, they've got to go backward to start where they left off before. And so it's a constant back and forth. If it were a TV show, there would be a lot of flashbacks, flash forwards, and in some cases, flash sideways.
Yes, but if you're not paying attention, you don't know where you are.
Exactly. So I'm trying to make it at least
Throw some commercial in.
so when someone dies and someone takes over, we know where that fit in without having to go back and say, when it says, oh, in the 5th year of King such and such, who is King such and such? Well, that would be the next section down. That's when his dad dies and he becomes, so that's what I'm trying.
Did you do all this study to chronologically put it in order?
Partly, but it's amazing. You can find these chronological Bibles. Not all of them are necessarily correct. Some assume a lot of things, but I will say that I've read a couple of different chronological Bibles and tried to figure it out. When we get to the Gospels, that's a whole different. But if we ever do that one, the Gospels are a whole lot harder than this. Because when people try to resolve where things fit in. And if you try to resolve the Gospels, you end up with Jesus doing a 4-year ministry, not a 3-year. Which is really, how many times did he enter Jerusalem? It becomes, the Gospels are a whole lot harder to resolve than the Old Testament Kings.
Eyewitness accounts are, a
Correct.
lot of differences in all of it.
There was a TV show on back in the mid-90s called That 70s Show. I remember that. I grew up in the 70s, so it kind of hit home a little bit to me, although I didn't, I was isolated, so I didn't see all the drug and sex and stuff. But anyway, the way the kids interacted, I can certainly understand. But the show was only on for 8 seasons. But on the show, only 4 years passed. It started in 1976, and in the first season jumped into 1977. But the final episode was the turn into 1980. It was December 31st, 1979. But yet they had 8 Christmases in 4 years.
Kind of like the Beatles, because once they got famous, they had already been broke up for a couple of years.
Yeah, but they were more popular than God. So let me go ahead and end our class here and stop our share. I'm already getting ready to choir. These people online. Bye-bye, everybody.